Live from CNN Center, this is Connect the World.
Hello and welcome to Connect the World live from CNN's headquarters in Atlanta. I'm Lynda Kinkade. We begin this hour with the announcement from Iran's judiciary. There is now a verdict and sentence in the espionage case against Washington Post reporter Jason Rezaian, but it hasn't said what they are. The Iranian-American has been detained in Iran since July 2014. John Defterios is watching the developments now for us from Abu Dhabi. And John, no verdict or sentence, so what exactly is Iran saying?
Well, as you say, Linda, a verdict on charges of espionage handed down, but it remains very vague at this stage because the verdict and sentence are not yet known. Rezaian has languished in jail despite an international outcry for his release. He remains the longest-held U.S. citizen in an Iranian prison. We, of course, have been tracking the response in Washington. Here's part of that response. Rezaian's employer, the Washington Post, put out this brief but very pointed response saying this vague and puzzling statement by the government of Iran only adds to the injustice that has surrounded Jason's case since his arrest 15 months ago. Executive editor Martin Barron saying that because this verdict leaves everyone guessing what will unfold next.
Sentenced after nearly 450 days behind bars, on Sunday, Iran's judiciary confirmed a verdict has been reached in the trial of American journalist Jason Rezaian. But in a process that's been shrouded in secrecy from the start, even the verdict is not clear. The judiciary says Rezaian and his attorney have 20 days to appeal what has been handed down. The U.S. State Department says they are monitoring the situation and continue to call for all charges against Jason to be dropped. Rezaian began working for the Washington Post in Tehran in 2012. In the spring of 2014, he and his Iranian wife, Yeganeh, talked with CNN's Anthony Bourdain about the challenges of reporting from Iran.
The difficult part is convincing people on the other side of the world that what we're telling you we're seeing in front of our eyes is actually there. When you walk down the street, you see a different side of things. People are proud. The culture is vibrant. People have a lot to say.
6 weeks later, Rezaian and his wife were detained, their home ransacked. Yeganeh was released on bail, but he remained in prison. Nearly 5 months later, he was charged with espionage. He was put on trial in May of this year, facing a 20-year sentence if convicted.
The last court proceeding was held in August, and the Washington Post again appealed for his release. Iran's Judiciary News Service has said his arrest has nothing to do with his being a journalist, with one Iranian official saying last week that Rezaian was linked to, quote, a faction in the U.S. Senate who planned to bring about regime change in Iran.
Recently, hopes for his release were raised when Iranian President Hassan Rouhani suggested that Rezaian and other Americans in Iranian jails could be part of an exchange for Iranians convicted in the U.S. on charges related to nuclear technology.
If the Americans take the appropriate steps and set them free, certainly the right environment will be open and the right circumstances will be created for us to do everything within our power and our purview to bring about the swiftest freedom for the Americans held in Iran as well.
For now, those aspirations have been dashed as a secretive legal process plays out in Tehran.
We have not heard yet from Rezaian or his attorney. It's worth reminding our viewers that he is one of 4 Americans in jail, Linda, which include Amir Hekmati, a U.S. Marine veteran, Robert Levinson, a contractor, and Saeed Abani, who is a Christian and converted pastor. Linda?
And John, this, of course, all comes at a very sensitive time in Iran.
Yeah, indeed, Linda. What we're witnessing is the push and pull, if you will, of internal politics in Iran, the hardliners on one side versus the moderates on the other, those representing the Revolutionary Guard and those backing President Hassan Rouhani. There were even hopes, as I noted in my report, of a prisoner exchange during the UN General Assembly just last month. Up to 19 Iranians held in U.S. jails on charges linked to Iran's nuclear program. And as you suggest, the word of the verdict comes as 2 events unfolded in Tehran on Sunday. This is interesting because it's the shade behind today's decision. Lawmakers passed a bill through the Iranian parliament to proceed with the P5+1 negotiations for lifting the economic sanctions, which have knocked out about 15% of the GDP in Iran. And at the same time, we saw the Revolutionary Guard, the military, put forward a military test on ballistic missiles, an indication that the Guard wanted to illustrate a show of force. But at the same time, Linda, showing that they don't want to proceed with the discussions on the P5+1 and the eventual lifting of the sanctions that control a lot of the economy in Iran. And again, we had very high expectations, and now we're somewhat in the dark with this verdict today, but no sentence.
Okay, John Defterios in Abu Dhabi. We will come back to you when we have more information out of Iran. Thank you.